Hi everyone, Aaron here for Zollotech, and iOS 14.3 has been out for a few days and I've been using it on and off depending on the device. And when iOS 14.4 came out, I've been using it on the iPhone 12 Pro Max, the iPhone 12, which has 14.3 on it, the iPhone 7, which also has iOS 14.3, and my 2020 iPad Pro 12.9. And so I wanted to talk about the overall experience of iOS 14.3 based off my experience and then your experience with the YouTube community poll, as over 28,000 people voted and there were about 700 comments at the time of making this video. So incredible amounts of participation there. So we have a lot of good data about that, including battery life, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. However, there's a new feature in iOS 14.3 that I didn't mention in the initial video about what was new. And that one feature has to do with Siri being able to replicate sounds. So for example, let's ask Siri to make a sound of a lion. Make a lion sound.
A lion sounds like this.
And so now we have audio samples of different animal sounds. So that's something new that it can do, as well as other sounds as well. Now also, if you'd like to continue to talk about this after the video, I also have Telegram and Discord linked in the description. If you want to check those out, be sure to check them out if you'd like to talk about this. Sometimes I'm on there as well. Now, the first thing is the overall experience. On 14.3, for me, in general, it was good. However, I did have some performance issues with app stuttering. So I would open an app, close it, and sometimes it would be jittery or have a frame rate drop. So you can see there it was smooth. You can go through, maybe open a different app like this one, swipe off, and it's working okay. Sometimes it would be stuttery and jittery, and that's the main issue I had with this. Everything else actually seemed to be okay for me. I've had good reception, no issues there, and I know some people had the green tint issue I'll talk about in a moment, but I haven't had that on my devices, but it's still there in this update, as well as iOS 14.4 beta 1 it seems to be in as well. Now I've been using it on my iPad as well, and the iPad has been mostly good as far as 14.3 with iPad OS. The one issue that I had with it mostly has to do with the Magic Keyboard. So when you would attach the keyboard to it, what would happen is sometimes the keyboard input wouldn't work until you rebooted the device. So I had that issue multiple times. I don't know if they've fixed it in 14.4, but it seems like it's still an issue from time to time. And we'll talk about battery life a little bit later on both devices. Now, as far as your experience, well, there were quite a few things that you had to say, but most issues seem to be audio related. So those of you having issues with maybe volume changing, now that is a setting that you can turn off. So there's a feature built into iOS 14.3 that will adjust headphones down if they're too loud to help with hearing. That's a simple feature you can turn off, and it disappeared for some, but it should be in 14.3. So if you go into your settings, go to sound and haptics, then go to headphone safety, you have headphone notifications and reduce loud sounds. If that's on, it will reduce the loud sounds to whatever you set this to. So if you turn it off, you can turn it on or turn it back up, and most of the time it will not reduce the sound. There are still some bugs, but most of the time it won't do that. So you can turn that off in sound and haptics. So that's one of the issues people are having, but other people are having disconnects with their headphones, Wi-Fi and Bluetooth connectivity in general, and specifically Bluetooth issues. So a lot of dropped connections to headphones or sound issues and crackling. So there's definitely something different in this update that unfortunately was not fixed going from 14.2 to 14.3. Also, some people are saying they have low volume on the speakerphone. So there's some issues with volume. I'm sure Apple will be working on this, but for some reason, volume is a weird thing in 14.3, and it was in 14.2. It just continues, and some people say it's worse, some say it's better. But then there's that other issue, like I said, green tint. That's the other one most people that have iPhone 12 series phones had said. So if you turn the display off, turn it back on, sometimes there would be a green tint based on what your brightness was set to. I wasn't able to replicate that on my displays, but I know a lot of people are having that issue. And then other people are saying that performance is great even on older devices. So it really depends on what, I guess, apps you have installed, what you're doing with it. But in general, it seems to be super fast overall. So the good thing is performance increased, except that stutter. But then there's those issues mostly with Bluetooth. those are the number one things, Bluetooth and audio issues. And some people had reported those issues to me, but then it got to be a lot of people. So it's definitely an issue. Now, things that are not in this update, like I said, is the green tint issue. There's no mention of fixes to CarPlay whatsoever. So I know a lot of people are having disconnects or stuttering or problems with that. There's no mention of anything fixed in that. And then also that 5G dual SIM option's not there yet. So hopefully they bring that to the iPhone 12 series so that you can use 5G at the same time with dual SIM. So that's not available yet. However, battery life is something I know a lot of you want to know about, and so I looked at the YouTube community poll, took 700 comments, took every one of them that mentioned battery. So we'll look at the poll in a moment, but took every one of them that mentioned battery out of the 706 comments, and then compiled that together, looked if whether or not you said it was good or the same or bad. And so after doing all of that, 56% of you say that you have the same battery or better than iOS 14.2 or iOS 14.2.1. So quite a few of you are saying that it's good. 44% of you have worse battery. So it's really hit or miss this time, more so probably than we've seen in the past. So it's great for some, not great for others, and it really depends on the device. For most people that have the newer devices or the iPhone 11 series, most people are saying that it's good. A lot of people that have the iPhone 7 are saying that it's not as good. So I don't know if that's just battery degrading over time. There's a lot of fingerprints on this jet black iPhone 7. But a lot of people are saying that the 7 series, for example, doesn't have great battery life. But there are a lot of security updates and things in this update as well. And so whether or not you should update to this is always up to you. But personally, because of security and feature changes, I always recommend updating. If you have AirPods Max, for example, you need to update to have that support and have the supported icons and things show up. So to me, features outweigh battery. But if battery is the number one thing for you, well, if you're having great battery life, you may want to hold off. However, as long as you care more about anything other than battery, then absolutely update, as it seems to fix a lot of problems. But we should see other versions later on, such as iOS 14.4. So just to show you my battery life overall, on my 12 Pro Max, if we go into battery, the battery health should be 100%. Let's check battery health on this iPhone 7, since I haven't looked at it in a while. Let's see what we're at. Battery health is not affected by the update. It just simply rechecks it. But you'll see it's at 87% and peak performance capability. So that's pretty normal. It's an older phone. And if you have an older iPhone 7 and you haven't replaced the battery yet, make sure that it's still working good, because that will affect performance and, of course, battery life if it's degraded. So the overall experience for me with battery, you can see here, this is usage, and when iOS 14.4 beta 1 came out, I switched to that. So here we have some screen on time. Now, it usually takes a couple days for things to stabilize, but you can see when I switched to 14.4, and this is the best day, I suppose, 4 hours and 50 minutes of screen on time, 19 minutes of screen off time, and I used about 60% of the battery. And normally I say the 12 Pro Max is good for 10 to 12 hours of screen on time. With 14.3, I was getting probably closer to 8, depending on how I was using it. But at the end of the day, I was still at about 50% battery life. So it was easily getting me through the day. Just depends on how you use it. But in general, it's okay. It seems to improve, though, for me anyway, with 14.4. However, on the iPad Pro, battery life has been really bad. And to the point where I updated this to 14.4, and it's still bad. So I may need to fully wipe this device, because battery life has just been really terrible on this. And I don't know what's actually using it, but we'll wait for it to load here. And you can see I use it mostly on YouTube, but it was last charged to 100% yesterday morning. And so that was yesterday. We're down to 80%, and I've used it for a total of about 45 minutes or something along those lines. That's pretty bad battery life, and so I may need to wipe that and start over and see if that actually fixes it. Now, as far as the YouTube community poll, well, there's a lot of comments, so I'll read some of them. But here you can see the poll. And like I said, incredible participation, 28,000 votes and 706 comments at the time of this video. 61% of you said that 14.3 has been great. 6% said it was terrible. 15% of you said it was okay but has some bugs. And 19% of you did not update to it. So That's pretty interesting that a lot of you are maybe waiting for this video or something along those lines. But let's go ahead and take a look at some of the comments. Darky said, I have iPadOS 14.3 on my iPad mini 5, and the battery life is a bit better than with iPadOS 14.2. Petru Silviu said, iPhone 12 mini, huge improvement in battery life. Good job. Jake Schweitzer says, it's great on my iPhone 11. Drew Trevetti, hopefully I'm saying that correctly. Everything's fine on my iPhone 11 Pro Max. However, I had an issue with 14.2 with the app library not refreshing after I install new apps. So I'll be checking if that persists. Will said, no bugs found. My AirPods Pro, I think is what you mean there, now switch automatically from one iOS device to another, something that was a problem with the previous version. Battery is okay on the iPhone 7 Plus. Unusually, no overheating with this update. So that's good to hear. Just depends on your device, I suppose. Darren says, it's running very good on my iPhone 12 Pro Max. Ata Kolde says, iPhone 10 and iPad Pro 3rd Gen, no bugs so far. Jack Wyatt says, just put 14.3 on my 7 Plus. Seems fine to me. I don't notice any difference. I do like the weather widget. Chetta Bob says, iPhone 8 Plus, everything's in working order. Seems like the battery got better too. Venomous says, 14.3, not even available to me. I'm iPhone SE 2020. It's definitely there. Just make sure you go to your settings and check for an update. If you have it on automatic updates, you may not see it. Jason Hernandez says, I'm using iPhone XR. The battery life seems to have improved a bit since the previous update did not help my battery at all. Ben R. Johansson says, battery life isn't as good as it used to be. Also, there is the screen rotation issue that sometimes have when switching to landscape, but it's okay overall on my 12 Pro Max. Gaurav Bharat says, now getting decent 1 hour extra battery life on my iPhone 12 mini. And I'm seeing that a lot with the iPhone 12 mini for some reason, so they must have fixed something there. Shrivam Kisan Agrawal says, battery woes continue, iPhone 11. And hopefully I said your name properly. And let's take a look at a few more. No Name says, feels like I'm getting worse battery life on the iPhone 12 Pro Max. MyV95 says, using iOS 14.3 on the iPhone 6s, so far it's great, but the volume HUD keeps appearing after turning off an alarm or ending a phone call. Had this bug since iOS 14.2. Andreas Moberg says, iPhone 11, awesome battery, and performance actually. Best version so far. Lex says, performance seems to be better on the XR, but battery life is terrible. Gitu Agrawal says, it has been great on the iPhone 12 Pro, no bugs or lag, but when my phone died, it had the green tint issue that is overall iOS 14.3, but overall iOS 14.3 is good. And then SH says, it's been okay so far, actually solved a no signal issue on my mom's 10s. And so iOS 14.3 seems to fix a lot of bugs for people, but we seem to be very similar to what we had last year with iOS 13.3. So we're sort of in that same cycle. Last year, we did have iOS 13.3.1 and then 13.4. Apple seems to have skipped 14.3.1 and jumped right to 14.4. However, they could throw that in there before the release of 14.4. So at this point in the year, since we're getting close to the holidays, normally Apple doesn't release anything. I made a little bit of a mistake last time as I forgot about 13.3.1 last time, and we sort of had the same release this week with 14.4 Beta 1. So saying all that basically means in January, I would expect the next beta update. If Apple wants to push it out before then, that would be rare based off the previous years, but it's possible they could do that. But at this point, I really wouldn't expect anything until at least after January 1st, since Christmas, and then we have the New Year's and those things coming up. So that's really usually when Apple sort of takes that time off, and then they start again after that. So look for an update next year, and then of course I'll keep you updated if there's anything new. If you'd like to get your hands on this wallpaper, of course I'll link it in the description like I normally do. And if you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe. And if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. As always, thanks for watching. This is Aaron. I'll see you next time.